Good morning. Socrates was an interesting character. He had a thick, meaty face and soupy, guttural voice like a peasant. But today he is considered to be the father of Western philosophy. In the ancient Greek capital of Athens, Socrates was considered to be a fountain of all knowledge to which men came from far and wide to learn. They would sit at his feet and he would ask questions all day. Why do you think so? What is the cause? What would you have done? Now, through their attempts to seek answers, the students eventually learned far more than they imagined possible. Socrates recognized the power of the question and its ability to unlock the solutions to all of life's problems. It is this simple lesson that I want to share with you today. A question is a request for knowledge. The solutions we seek to all of our problems will all be provided if we learn to ask the right questions. In Ghana, we are not raised to ask questions. We are taught to accept whatever our elders or our betters tell us without question. They tell us to obey before complain. They say a curious child is an insolent child. And so they teach us not to talk back. This still happens, by the way, because you and I are the parents of today, and this is how we were taught by our own parents. As a society, we are literally teaching our children not to seek knowledge. In this age, where the rest of the world is competing for supremacy through the acquisition and sharing of information, we are depriving our future generations of the one tool that will make them competitive: the culture of curiosity. It was curiosity that got man onto the moon. It was curiosity that brought us electricity. Curiosity led to the discovery and invention of aircraft, antibiotics, gravity, the telephone, the automobile, the internet, and all the other amazing things that have changed the world and evolved the way in which things are done. Now, while all this has been going on, we, in our part of the world, have been teaching our children not to speak unless they are spoken to. Well, here's a question. Why must they not speak unless they are spoken to? Is it because it is rude? Even as adults, we subject each other to the same handicaps. When I ask tough questions of our leaders, I'm told by some people that I don't respect. We are okay with their incompetence, their inefficiency and insensitivity to our plight. None of that is disrespectful to us, but how dare we demand accountability from them, right? How dare we question them? Socrates, one of the smartest men who ever lived, said this: "As for me, all I know is that I know nothing." Socrates knew nothing, and he was aware of this, which is why he asked questions. We know less than nothing, but we are not aware that we are clueless because we don't ask questions. Every wrong turn our country has made in its short history can be blamed on a failure to ask the right questions. My dear friend, most of us are either parents or potential parents. Either way, for us, it's probably too late to change, but please, let's not infect our children with this fatal knowledge allergy. Let's give them a fighting chance to compete in the future world. Let's allow them to develop a healthy curiosity and an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. This is real power, and they're going to need it. Personally, it's one of the things I thank my late father for. My name is Kojo Yankson, and all of life's solutions are just a question away. So let's show a little more curiosity, because what killed the cat can cure a country. Good morning, Ghana.
Hello there, good morning, welcome to the AM News. Now, the Ghana Police Service has served notice it will roll out random stop and search operations on the roads and also visit offices as part of efforts to get more people to wear face masks and comply with other COVID-19 safety protocols. The attempt to enforce compliance in offices comes on the back of statistics from the Ghana Health Service that the number of workplace infections is on the rise. The police service is also urging district assemblies to explore the passage of bylaws to ensure compliance. Sheila Abeye-Bachman speaks for the service.
And we have been engaging with regulators and operators. Various police departments, regions, directorates, and units engage. So, for instance, let me use the MTTG as an example. Transport operators, transport owners, at the lorry stations, we have been engaging them. And particularly in the municipal and district assemblies, we have started engaging to see how they can activate their bylaws to ensure enforcement of the wearing of masks as their bylaws permit, specifically to the regions, and we hope to see results soon. We have been visiting public places randomly. So when we come to an open bar, for instance, and we notice that you are not ensuring COVID protocols, we lock you up. And for those of you who report from the ground, I'm sure you have a few cases you have already reported. But the next step that we are going to take, we are going to have random stop and search on vehicles across the country. So you could be traveling from Tamale to Accra, or you could be traveling from Ho to Hohoi, or wherever, Kwamai to Kumewu, or you could be traveling from Madina to Adenta. It could be a commercial vehicle, most especially, but it can also be private vehicle. For as long as we see 2 or more people on the vehicle, any police officer in uniform can stop you.
Now, after 3 postponements, Parliament finally took a decision to reject a motion moved by Member of Parliament for Boko Central, Mahama Yariga, seeking to absolve fees for tertiary students for this academic year. The motion was for Parliament to ask President Akufo-Addo to absolve fees for tertiary students as part of relief packages for Ghanaians due to the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. In a majority decision, Parliament voted to reject the motion, but only after a spirited debate from both sides. Here's Kweku Asante's report.
Is tomorrow acceptable to members? Now, I put the question. At the conclusion of the debate, the question is, as many as in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. As many as are against the motion, say no. No. The noes have it. Yeah. The motion is accordingly negated.
This is what it came down to, but only after the motion to absorb tertiary fees for this academic year, moved by NDC MP for Boko Central, Mahama Yariga, had been subjected to rigorous debating from...
We apologize. We have to take this report and bring it back to you a bit later on. Now, lawyers for the NDC's 2020 presidential candidate on Thursday failed yet again in the attempt to get the chairperson of the Electoral Commission to answer some 12 questions they had for her. A 9-member panel of justices dismissed John Mahama's review application after the court presided over by Chief Justice Zenin Yeboah said the threshold required for the court review jurisdiction to be triggered had not been met. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has more.
Hearing commenced on Thursday with the panel informing the lawyers in the case that some of the applications that had been made were moot. The first had to do with a request that the court stays its proceedings. That particular application should have been heard on Tuesday, and because it was staying proceedings pending the court dealing with the review on Thursday, the court did indicate that it was moot, and so Mr. Chikata, who had filed a particular application, proceeded to withdraw it, and the court struck it out as withdrawn. The second one related to a request for abridgment of time. It was a request that the Electoral Commission had made, asking that the court hears the review on Tuesday instead of Thursday, and because it was Thursday again, the court did note that it was also moot, and lawyers for the Electoral Commission proceeded to withdraw that particular application as well. With that out of the way, the court went on a brief recess where two justices of the Supreme Court, Justices Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu, as well as Justice Amadou Tanko, joined the 7-member panel to now make a 9-member panel, at which stage the legal arguments were listened to from Mr. Chikata, Justin Amenuvo for the Electoral Commission, and Akoto Ampao for the President Akufo-Addo's legal team.
It's my submission that the arguments we have heard today by the applicant is just an emotional reaction to an unfavorable judgment quoting Adade, and therefore this application should be dismissed. That's my submission.
The applicant has the burden of demonstrating to the court how the refusal in this particular case was wrong. And furthermore, he has an obligation to demonstrate, one, that the error was a fundamental error, two, that that fundamental error occasioned them a gross miscarriage of justice. And it's our submission that the applicant has failed to demonstrate these very basic conditions to grant a review. In the circumstances, my lords, we pray that the application be dismissed as completely unmeritorious.
We thought it important to have those questions dealt with in interrogatories so that we would not be burdened to have to ask them subsequently in cross-examination. In any case, your ladyship, if the questions are not relevant, how can they be allowed in cross-examination, if that is the position? If the questions are not relevant, if that is the position that's been taken, then they cannot be asked in cross-examination either.
Are you attempting to cross a bridge you have not reached?
Well, I believe you put that bridge there. No, with respect, this very simple way of trying to interpret Rule 69C4 would lead to gross absurdity.
The court in a unanimous decision dismissed first the request that was asking that it allows some additional documents to be filed to bolster the review arguments of Mr. Mohammed's team, and also dismissed the review itself, saying that it has not met the threshold required for such a review to be granted. Proceedings have been adjourned to Friday for the trial proper to commence, and the various legal teams have been reacting to the directives from the courts.
The refusal of applications are not fair to the petitioner in the light of the past and in the light of what is happening now. So we disagree with the rulings of the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, that's their decision. There's not much we can do. We'll be in court tomorrow.
The law is not about what you want. It is about what you will get. And this business of they're talking about fair hearing and all that. In one of the authorities that their lead counsel, Mr. Tajikaka, quoted, it was stated quite clearly there that speedy hearing is synonymous to fair hearing. So I don't know what this fetish it is about expedition being sacrificed for justice. In the case that he himself, Tajikaka, quoted, it was speedy hearing is fair hearing. And I don't really get the complaint. When you come to court and your mind, with all due respect, is jaundiced, that you should expect a certain ruling from the court. That is what is occasioning you when the ruling goes against you. In the courtroom, I heard my sister Marietta also saying that their lead counsel preferred superior arguments. Really? Superior arguments. Indeed, if the arguments were superior, 9 justices will not find that argument not superior. So that position they are canvassing is neither here nor there.
On Friday, when the case resumes, Dr. Michael Pesa-White and the NDC's General Secretary Johnson Esiedun Ketia will be called upon to mount the witness box. Reporting for Joy News on the Supreme Court, I am Joseph Akable.
And that sit-in will be live here on Joy News. Born in the middle of a pandemic, that's the story of Peter, a rare breed monkey, the only one of its kind to be born in Ghana in 2020. A wildlife conservationist are celebrating Peter's birth as a major win in the fight against the extinction of Mangabe monkeys in Ghana. Justice Baidu has been given access into the Accra Zoo to see him.
Okay, baby monkey in the arms of mother monkey.
Fergus.
Chechele, the mother, and Peter, the child, caressing each other
Fergus.
in the heart of the Achimota forest. Peter is a Mangabe monkey.
Maybe from here?
Once upon a time, its type was popular in Ghanaian forests. But now excessive hunting for bushmeat and wildfires have sent them into near extinction in Ghana.
The birth of a new Mangabe is of huge significance for the population of the Mangabes. This is the biggest reserve population within the world, I would say, and we hope that they will help us eliminate the risk of extinction of the species once we are able to reintroduce them into the Ghanaian rainforest.
Peter was named after a dedicated worker at the Kumasi Zoo who spent his life caring for monkeys, dying in 2019 in the line of work.
He used to take care of the white-napped Mangabes, and he also helped us to hand-rear a baby monkey that the mom rejected. So we wanted to remember him, and that's why we named Peter after him.
A lot of people don't even know that the zoo have moved from Kanda to this area. So our main aim is to promote this zoo so that other people will know about it and come and see the animals. Most of the time,
Ernestina Enin speaks for the Wildlife Division, the body under the Forestry Commission working against the odds to keep this zoo alive.
Talking about Peter as one of the Mangabes that have been born this year, it's a way that people would know that these animals are very close to extinction, and we need to protect them so that we can promote tourism.
Peter's birth is the first to be seen at the Achimota forest in many years. And its conservation is by courtesy of the West African Primate Conservation Action, WAPCA, a local NGO which hopes to release Peter into a Ghanaian forest soon. Justice Baidu, Joy News, Accra.
Well, maybe something you can do with the family this weekend. I'm sure your kids may want to see Peter in the zoo. Now, the demand for Gorontua, an emerging aphrodisiac, has brought economic relief to individuals selling the fruit. A number of people have started small businesses marketing the fruit and are making money low-key. Love FM's Mona Lisa Frimpong has been finding out more in this report.
Relatively unknown to many, the Gorontula is considered a miracle fruit by those who know its health benefits. Botanically known as Azanza galkiana, the Gorontula, as it is called in Hausa, is mostly found in the northern part of Nigeria.
This is Gorontula, popularly referred to as the miracle fruit. You know, you can chew raw or after extracting the seed. Also, you can soak the fruit in a small amount of water to make a paste-like jelly. You know, when it's soft, it is very easier to chew. Others also prefer to make it in this paste form, as I have indicated. They add honey to make it sweet. They can add it to their yogurts, porridges, and pap.
The Research Journal of Medicinal Plants reveals the fruit contains medicinal properties. It is purported to increase fertility in females and boost men's libido. A lady writes, "Please, do you still have some of the fruits? Charlie, it works, Papa. My white is gone. My libido was rising while in the office. This fruit is Please, I want 4 packs of the 30 cedis. Another says, I don't remember the last time I had any discharge or itching since I started with the Gorontula. Previously, the infection was constant, but now I have so much relief.
She said, ever since I started using the Gorontula, he has been all over me. I don't even have a breathing space. Another lady wrote, hey, your Gorontula syrup is bomb. Hobby was all over me, asking me what I've been using. Oh, come and see Promises and Confessional. Please, when you restock the fruit, let me know. I want to get both. This time around, I must get my new shop.
Hajara Omar is a Gorontula dealer at Aija in Kumasi. She has been in the business for the past 5 years. Married couples and the youth are her regular customers.
Because when you be one and what's away, and the young girls are no more motor. So we won't talk man, or be better man. In China, I will coaching my lamb near so by say, we will be a winning who is here, and I wouldn't say brain pain set. Into Bueno, a warm once and say, obeying set. Mamma to say, my ultimate now and out to check.
Before the upsurge in demand, the fruit was cheap on the market. The price of the fruit has shot up from 5 cedis before the start of the year to 10 cedis. The rush for the fruit has made it scarce.
Sana obia unhuni value adia eye. But se obia nim se we ya eboa oba boa bema. E na afa se first na nka say cry 5 cedis. What you say? But se say no.
Though there are positive reviews on Gorontula, Ghanaian scientists I contacted say they are yet to conduct research on it. Before then, Ghanaians should expect a continuous increase in the prices of the miracle fruit. Reporting for Joy News, Mona Lisa Frimpong, Kumasi.
Well, before you use it as an aphrodisiac, remember it must be approved by the FDA. That's it for the news. When we come back with the newspapers, sadly, Ghana has recorded some 13 new coronavirus deaths, and our active cases stand at 3,940. We will be back shortly. Stay with us. Friday, 29th of January 2021. Thank God, finally, January is ending. Hallelujah, somebody.
Amen, somebody. You know, the week doesn't end like that, too. But you know, I don't know why this morning Gorontula is on my mind.
Is it? Oh, yeah. You want to try it?
You know, I don't do aphrodisiacs. Why would I even have to do aphrodisiacs? But you got me interested. I was listening to the piece and I was wondering, Anyway, that's just by the by.
And this is from somebody who says, I don't do aphrodisiacs.
No, I don't need aphrodisiacs.
Okay, but something moved you?
Out of curiosity.
Oh, so now you want to try?
I don't know, because legally, no. So you will see. When we get to Chachikata's bridge, we'll cross.
Let's say good morning to Joseph Akable. Joe, show us your face. Your eyes are... Oh, okay, yeah. You showed us your full face. That's fantastic. Good job yesterday. And actually...
Fantastic, always.
I can't even say good job because you're always on top of your job. So, hey.
A reporter extraordinaire. I can see your head blowing up already.
But what was the reaction? You know, yesterday, I think the bomb really was the press conference after Marietta. And there came Frank Davis. And it was a blast all through. Usually when the other party is speaking, where is the other party?
So, you know, previously we used to do the interaction right at the exit of the court premises where it was very difficult to socially distance and do the interview. So we reached an agreement with the Judicial Service that a podium will be provided in front of the statues at the Supreme Court premises. So that podium is there. So the arrangement always is that when they are done, the side that comes out first comes to the podium to address us. So if you realize, in the past, it's always the case that the president's legal team tend to come initially to speak to us. Then afterwards, Mr. Mohammed's legal team come after. But yesterday, for some strange reasons, when they both came out, the former president's legal team quickly approached the podium and they addressed us. And I mean, you could see clearly that they were very unhappy about what had happened. And if you listen closely to Marietta in this particular video that is showing on the screen, I mean, they really seemed very unhappy about the court decision, and it appeared it's one that has really affected what they were planning to do by way of the petition.
Yeah. I have a request, though. I know that the Judicial Service, they watch your news. Well, we're grateful. But I have a request because, you know, it is fantastic that you've provided this platform for the parties to speak to us, which is great. Except that when the journalists are talking, when they're asking their questions, we don't hear the questions. So my humble appeal to the Judicial Service is to provide an extra microphone so that the journalists will ask the question. So how come we don't hear you?
Except that it's in the main feed. That's the problem.
Okay, that one, let me drop. I withdraw, Judicial Service. I withdraw my request.
Council has taken a step
humbly,
back.
exactly. This one is more technical and I understand it. Okay, so let's go through the newspapers. I've got the Finder, Republic Press, and the Daily Dispatch.
The Daily Graphic here, the Custodian, and the Business and Financial Times.
Akable will do the Ghanaian Times, the Daily Guide, and the Daily Statesman. Ben, why don't you start?
Well, let's start with the Daily Graphic then. Election petition hearing begins today as Mahama's application for review dismissed. Into pre-trial. And we're moving on from there. Of course, that story will talk about the interrogatories, the 12 that the NDC wanted to put to the Electoral Commission's chair, Jean Mensah, among other things. But I'm just doing the headlines now. We'll get into the stories proper. Ghana improves on 2020 Corruption Perception Index. COVID-19 cases surging at workplaces. Mama, you were saying a short while ago that we've crossed 3,900, right?
Yes, sir.
Not looking good. And what we hear, you know, I stumbled upon this story yesterday on Facebook where someone shares, you know, a story. It's not, the person doesn't have COVID, it's an elderly person, but it's, the person has gone into a diabetic coma. But you're moving from hospital to hospital, and COVID patients have taken over all the ICUs. So there's no attention for you, emergency. Imagine someone in a coma and having a relative going round, and imagine the frustration of it. So, I mean, this is really shocking our health system, our economy, everything, and we need to, you know, get grips on it.
Yeah.
When you go to the middle spread, it talks about the ILO ratifying conventions to protect workers' rights. Very important there. Government begins distribution of 22 million PPE to schools. On the back page, 9 children test positive for COVID-19 at CAF. Professor Samson Aintree talking about that. And the police step up enforcement of mask wearing. Yes, so those stories in the Daily Graphic this week.
All right, let's do the headlines in the Republic Press newspaper. Banner headline: suspected COVID-19 patient stranded as Rich Hospital's test results delay beyond 14 days. COVID-19 and our markets business as usual. NLA in hot waters, fails to pay big wins since April. When I come back later, I will tell you about the Rich suspected COVID patient story and then that of the NLA. Joseph Akable?
Yes, Mama V. So I'll quickly take you through the front pages of the papers that I have, starting first with the Ghanaian Times. It says COVID-19 scare will ensure safety of school children, DS assures parents. And Just Born Group secures €50 million deal with Hungarian government. Police gun 2 suspected armed robbers, 2 others arrested, and Ministry of Health invites public for free COVID-19 test, also on the front page. The center spread has some photographs, so specifically on page 16 and 17, from the funeral of Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, retired, the former president who was laid to rest earlier in the week. And let's do the front page of the Daily Guide now. It says Supreme Court bounces Mahama, full trial begins today. Godfrey Dami wins Best Deputy Minister, also on the front page, and has a photograph of the former Deputy Attorney General and currently the Minister Designate for Justice on that particular front page of the Daily Guide. The Daily Statesman front page now. It has this story from the court. It says, more defeats for Mahama as Chachu and co fail to meet Supreme Court thresholds. And please stop and search operation to check COVID-19 spread. Also on the front page, government commends stakeholders for cooperation during Rawlings' funeral. Another story on the front page of the Daily Statesman. The back page says, bottom side, Sheffield United and shock win to deny Man United top spots. I'm sure this is a story that Mavi should be worried and interested about at the same time. Yeah, Sheffield United, yeah, the bottom side. They won against Manchester United.
Means that is dead and buried. Gone. Oh, I can't believe.
It's an important story, so you have to take it.
Okay, whatever. Let's continue with the headlines.
Those are the papers for you, Mavi.
Okay, great. All right, I will continue with the Finder newspaper. Front page of the Finder, Ghana improves score on 2020 Corruption Perception Index. Police to stop check public vehicles for mask compliance. Ghana records 30 new COVID-19 deaths. Active cases now 3,940. Mahama's lawyers suffer fresh setback as Supreme Court dismisses review applications. CAF recording high COVID-19 positive cases involving children. MTN doles out $25 million to African Union for COVID-19 vaccinations. And FDA outlines program for 2021 amidst COVID-19 surge. That's how the front page of the Finder newspaper looks like today.
Well, let's check out the Custodian newspaper now. It says Ghana improves on corruption fight. That is on page 2. Akufo-Addo presents Papa J's epitaph. There's Ghana records 390 COVID-19 deaths. Active cases now standing at 3,940. Again, the bit about the NDC's petition. Judges clear Mahama's obstacles to petition trial as Chachu fails to meet legal threshold. Hearing begins today. But I also stumbled upon this interesting one here. Why Zaneto, Kimathi Rawlings are trending after J.J. Rawlings' funeral. That's on page 9. Have you seen, the trend on social media with the two of them and the sort of captions that have come up? Hilarious. I'm sure, I don't think we have a shot of that, but when you look at page 9.
Oh, this one.
Kimathi is talking to, Zaneto, and the sort of things they have said, Obisi Obeko is hilarious on social media.
We play too much.
Hilarious on social media. Upper West eulogizes late Rawlings. That's it with the Custodian newspaper by way of headlines. Okay,
let's do my last paper, the Daily Dispatch, and this is real when you see it and when I read it. Apart from impotence, COVID-19 may cause infertility, that's according to doctors. 2020 parliamentary results also contained in today's edition. How $2.4 billion of late Abacha's money was returned to Nigeria. National Lottery Authority has been paying big wins. Okay, so this is contrary to reports in two of the papers that I've seen, actually, which says that the National Lottery Authority fails to pay big wins since April. So we'll share the two stories. And then Jospon Group secures Hungarian government contract of 50 million euros to construct waste plants in Ghana. That's it for the Dispatch.
Well, my final paper, the Business and Financial Times, some of the other stories have been mentioned already, so I'll not go back to them. But a merry deal runs out on Sunday. Is government ready to take over? That's one that interests me right there. Is it? You can check out the details on page 3. Get fund not robust enough to finance tertiary fees. That's according to an education expert. My own man, Kofi Asari. We fight and then we make up. Then there's also this one. Macroeconomic issues. Fire explosions top business concerns for 2021 per the research. Those are some very interesting stories in the Business and Financial Times. Shall we dig into the main stories then, Mama?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There are 2 stories that I'm looking at, maybe 3 if there's time. First, I want to look at the COVID-related ones, and I think there are different angles to it. So I'll start with what's in the Republic Press newspaper about COVID patients stranded at the Ridge Hospital. Essentially, the story says that the Greater Accra Regional Hospital is one of those centers where they do free COVID tests for suspected cases. If your symptoms look like COVID, then they will run a free test for you. What has happened because of this is that there are a number of people going to the facility to test, and they are not able to release the results early enough. In fact, there are people who have tested waiting 14 days, according to the story in the paper, who have not received their tests. And they will tell you, in some cases, to go home, come back maybe after a week and check on your results. What it means is you actually don't know if you have COVID or not. And if you don't take care of yourself, you might end up exposing your loved ones to the disease. So that's the troubling story in the Republic Press, with the Ridge Hospital not being able to release COVID results, test results in good time. You know, related to that.
But that really beats my mind. I know people who have told me they tested since last year in the thick of things. They never got their results. You know, some people, it's been said that, oh, when they think you're negative, then maybe you don't hear from them. I think we ought to break this cycle, because it's simply mind-boggling. And assuming it's been a week, 5 days and more, you don't know you have the thing. At some point, you are tempted to maybe engage in certain activities only to find out that you are positive. Then what happens to the people who are exposed?
Yeah. Yeah, and if you read the story in detail, some of them are attributing it to the fact that it is free, because they know people who go to private facilities and get it done in pay, and they get their results in good time. So there's somebody who says, for instance, she's pregnant. She says, me cry dear, today is 2 weeks old. The nurses said tomorrow, but I don't sneeze or cough again. And this is familiar. I have heard people who have said, I was feeling sick when I tested, showing all the signs, but it's been more than 2 weeks. I still don't have the results, but I think I'm even feeling okay, you know? So you have to be more responsible. The fact that you run a test and you don't have the results doesn't mean that you should tell yourself, oh, I don't have COVID, so I can go ahead
because you don't know.
No, you don't know, but you are feeling what you're feeling.
No, the point is,
and you have to take care of yourself and take care of the other people.
Once you don't have the result, you don't know. You cannot really tell whether you're positive or not. Because
but you can't be careless.
People react. No, I totally agree.
But you can't be careless.
In fact, corroborating what you're saying, I'm adding that you don't know, because some people show symptoms, others show practically no symptoms.
So here's the thing that I'll say.
So you can't just look at the fact that I'm not feeling this and say, oh, I'm fine.
So here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that we have to be responsible. We've had conversations about the symptoms and the signs, but if you're not feeling well and you run a COVID test, don't sit at home. Go to a hospital, go to a clinic, and speak to a doctor. It could be anything, apart from what you think, you know, apart from the fact that you're probably thinking it's COVID. It could be something else. So go to a hospital. I think that's the basic thing that we all have to do. And then related to it is the bit about, apart from impotence, COVID-19 may cause infertility. So this was a conversation on the Super Morning Show on Joy FM yesterday, where Justice Yang Singh, who is the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, was speaking to our colleague Kojo Yang Singh, and the paper has captured it on the back page of the paper from myjoyonline.com, where Mr. Yang Singh, for instance, says that, and I want to quote it too, so that you don't say I have said that it leads to blankets like that. So Justice Yang Singh stated that even though reports are not conclusive, damage caused to the testicular. Are you ready?
Testicular. Yeah, the
testicular cells by COVID-19 through hyperinflammation of the cell tissues may affect male fertility in the long run. So he said this, of course, whilst explaining the effects of COVID-19 on the sexual health of male patients. Then there's something also damage, sometimes also damage to the testicular cells, the cells within the tests. That is where testosterone is produced. Generally speaking, that is what makes us men.
You know, when I listen to Dr. Youngson, and even as you read this bit, all the bit about Charlie, I could feel the pain. It's not easy.
So men, no, this one is the men, no, please. So you see, you can't say COVID is not real. Listen, it's got implications even when you get better.
Mama V, I was telling you earlier that even women are complaining about their libido dropping. They are complaining about their monthly flows.
Yeah.
I have personally spoken to some people who have had it, who have told me that, look, it affects you in certain ways. Even their flows are, impacted.
Akablay, what have you heard, apart from what we are talking about from doctors? Impotence, low libido?
What I heard is not a physical situation. I was told that when you are admitted to the ICU, they'll take your mobile phone from you. So the men, your wife will have your mobile phone for 14 days.
That could be disastrous for some people. I mean, imagine what you would do.
Seriously, when you find yourself in the ICU, this is what you'll be thinking about, worried that your wife has your phone for 14 days?
14 days.
Check out the look on his face when he says that.
Oh, yeah, Semo, but listen.
And you know what will happen is that because there is no national announcement that you're in the ICU, those who ordinarily contact you will be contacting you anyways.
No, but this is also quite revealing. Yeah.
It is. It is. And the bit about...
Put a password on a double password on your phone.
Well, at some point, I'm sure you'd need some help and you might have to let go of the password. And that is where all that will happen. But, I saw that statement recently by the Ghana Health Service with regard to free testing and all of that, especially if you're being contact traced and all that in public facilities. At least I think it is some progress, because one of the things I've always spoken about is the more you test, the more you know the reality of the situation.
Are you mindful of the free things? The free things is when people test 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they don't have results.
No, but I'm saying test, but don't delay for too long. I'll just do this one very quickly. It's tied to the conversation. It's from the Daily Graphic. I think the court petition, since we're going to be doing the stories in the show, we'll leave that for later. But Africa secures another 400 million COVID-19 vaccine doses. And it says... these vaccines have been secured for the African continent through the Serum Institute of India, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has been saying. I'm asking, Ghana, we've been told, I think it was Dr. Okoboy recently who was mentioning that even when it gets into the system, there are priority areas, the security forces. First of all, the medical personnel, those on the front line, then security forces and all of that. Before maybe... those of us without the pink sheets can also approach the bench and think of what we can get. But the best thing to do, avoid COVID. Don't catch it. Just do the right things and hopefully you'll not get it.
Yeah. Okay, Joe, what story are you highlighting? Yeah.
I think mainly the court issues, but I saw this other story too. I'm trying to get to it quickly.
Okay, whilst you do that.
Yes, assuring that they will ensure the safety of school children. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too sure how they intend to go about that, because this morning we're actually having a discussion about some stories that are coming from the various public schools, especially where there are serious compliance issues in terms of the protocols. And so I think beyond just the assurance from the GES, I'm looking forward to see how specifically they can deal with it. I don't know whether as a nation we're also paying attention to research, in the sense that are we looking at those who are going to school? Is there any means of tracking to see how many cases, testing to check whether the protocols that are in place are actually effective? In other jurisdictions, those are the kind of things that researchers are paying attention to. so that it informs how we deal with matters going forward, especially if the COVID-19 is to stay and be with us for maybe the rest of our lives, and we don't have a vaccine that is very effective so that or is available so that everyone can get some. We should be looking at how effective those protocols can be in those social gatherings that are a part of our lives that we cannot do away without.
Yeah, and as a parent, when you hear the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital, you know, the story coming from there, 10 days, 9 positive cases.
In fact, the story we did this morning, actually, one of the doctors, the Ashanti Regional GMA president, actually says they found that some of the doctors and the nurses at the facility were attending to patients without wearing the nose mask. And that is of serious concern.
There's been a lot of complaint from those quarters, especially in the Ashanti region. Even last year, we heard of some of them who had contracted it, people who were losing their lives. There have been concerns. And you know, children, the proposal has been that children below 2 shouldn't use masks because of their nature and, you know, even respiratory system and the fact that they like to take these things off. You ask yourself, so how do we deal with such situations now that the children are dying?
Absolutely. It's very scary. Really, really, really scary. But listen, we have to be calm about it. You have to remain calm because it's only when you're calm that you can reason properly. But we certainly have to take all the precautions. I wanted to touch on the NLA real quick. So apparently, and according to 2 of the reports in the papers, at least what I've spotted, NLA has failed to pay big ticket wins since April last year, leaving winners in total misery and financial difficulties. You know why people would use this means to get rich, right? I mean, you stick and you're fortunate and not fat, and then they can't pay you. I think that's like the biggest
winnings, no winnings, not
yeah. So people are apparently, according to the report, turning away from 590 games from the NLA, and they are rather patronizing the banker-to-banker lottery, which is affecting the revenue of not only NLA, but the income of NLA Lotto marketers. But if you look at that story in the Daily Dispatch newspaper, right? Absolutely, it says that the NLA is urging the general public, staking players, Lotto marketing companies, I guess everybody, that they should ignore and discredit the news publication under the headline, National Lottery Authority fails to pay big wins since April.
Looks like Trump is still in the picture because they are trying to say that is fake news. Anyway.
But is it the sweetness of the pudding, they say?
Well, it's in the eating, isn't it?
Exactly.
So you chop that in.
So I don't know.
Like okay, so I'll wrap up with this one. I'm very passionate about anti-corruption matters, and on page 2 of the Custodian newspaper, it says Ghana improves on corruption fight. Very briefly, now Ghana has improved her performance on the 2020 Corruption Perceptions Index released by Transparency International with a score of 43 points out of a possible 100. Ghana gained 2 points compared to its 2019 score of 41, and the country also exceeds the sub-Saharan African average of 32 points, equaling the global average of 43 points. And the score places Ghana in the 10th position in sub-Saharan Africa and 75th in the world out of 180 countries. The best-ranked country in Africa, Seychelles, with 66 points. But you know, we've been hovering around this figure for a long time. We've gone 1 up, we've gone 2 down, and we're all...
Okay, we're going to wrap up, but Joseph, we want to give you the last say. You wanted to talk about the courts. The trial itself begins today.
Yes, the main business starts today. Mr. Sirin Ketia and Dr. Kwesawai, if time permits, will be the ones to testify, and they'll be cross-examined as well. I'll be dashing off quickly so I can join you at some point for more on the court issues here.
Absolutely. All right. Joseph Akable is our court correspondent. It is big for all of us. Courts usually won't sit on Fridays, but they are sitting today. The trial of the 2020 election petition begins today.
Time is of the essence.
Yeah.
And the justices of the court are fully aware of that. Anything else to sneak in before we go for sports?
No. Joseph will bring us a lot more later on in the show. We have to take sports now.
Hello,
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM Sports with me, Oreko Ampo. It's a Friday and you know how we do it on Fridays. We preview the weekend's action in terms of sports, and we'll be starting off with the Ghana Premier League, where last week we did see a bit of a strange result when Legon Cities beat Ashgold by 5-2, although that result was not enough to lift the Royals out of the relegation zone. Now this week they face Inter Allies and the Accra-based club. They are optimistic that they would be beaten Inter Allies in week 11.
We're excited to make a return to the Accra Sports Stadium once again, a venue where we've been able to score 6 goals in the last 2 matches that we have played. In those games as well, we've been able to record all 6 points, 3 points against Wafa and 3 points against Ashgold. And for anyone who saw us play in our last game in the Ghana Premier League against Ashgold, they would have seen that the team obviously has turned on a new leaf. We are confident that a venue that has served us so well in the last 2 matches would serve us well again. But of course, we are not taking things lightly. We are working very hard. It's been a very, very tough week. I've had the opportunity to be at the training ground, and I can see the efforts that the lads are putting in to ensure that we try to build some momentum in the Ghana Premier League. Incidentally, our next couple of matches will also be at the Accra Sports Stadium, and the lads are confident on the back of that performance against Wafa and on the back of that performance against Ashgold that they would want to take that momentum in those upcoming games as well, starting with a game against Inter Allies. They are desperate to get all those 3 points, because for them, the kind of team we have and the kind of position that we are, it's clearly not good enough. And we know that, they know that, they appreciate that it's all about hard work that would only guarantee us moving way higher the table. And we are pretty confident in them that come Sunday, they are going to deliver again. And then, of course, for the fans who will be making it to the Accra Sports Stadium, we would plead with you to ensure that all COVID protocols are held. Please ensure that you come with your nose mask. And when you make your way to the Accra Sports Stadium, please try to get a sanitizer to wash your hands. Listen to the stewards as they guide you to where exactly you're supposed to sit. We want you to come and join us celebrate, but of course, we would also want you to leave the stadium very healthy like you came. The Accra Sports Stadium is the place to be this Sunday as we come up against Inter Allies at 3 p.m. And we are confident that we are going to be getting yet another result in the Ghana Premier League.
Let's come back to Ghana and this time talk about golf, where Ghana's #1 golfer Vincent Toga has emerged winner of this year's Captain One Invitational Golf Championship, which was held at the Royal Golf Club in Kumasi. The 4th major tournament, with close to 100 golfers battling for glory, saw the legendary golfer prove his worth once again after recording a net score of 71 to be crowned champion. Here's a report put together by Love FM's Kelvin Oswansa.
The tournament started with close to 100 golfers from across the country playing it out at the Royal Golf Club in Kumasi. It was not easy for Ghana's #1 Vincent Toga because he had to battle it out with fast-rising golfer Kwabena Poku, with the game settled after a play of over 4 holes. The 2 golfers kept patrons and other participants at the edge of their seats as they went back and forth, attempting to break the tie. But a more determined Toga eventually stole the game after the 4th hole.
Well, I would say it feels good. Anytime I win, it feels like a new beginning for me. So I think the feeling is different from previous ones, because this is the first time I play this tournament, and the competition take to play to the next level of playoff. That means the players are putting their best. So I think I'm happy for myself. It was tough because the course was playing a bit different from where I come from. So the greens are beautiful than my place, and the condition have changed a little bit. So I think the players made it very tough, because new players and new people that came all the way from outside to be part of the tournament, so made it a bit difficult for everybody.
Mr. Toga walked away with a giant trophy, a gold medal, and 5,000 Ghana cedis worth of voucher, while his closest contender, Poku, received 2,500 Ghana cedis voucher for his efforts.
It's not easy. I was nervous because there was agreement is going on. So I get confused. I have to do my homework because the guy is tough. He knows how to play. So I want to be like him. I want to play outside like him.
Paul Chen from the host club, Royal Golf Club, came third with a net score of 73 to receive 1,500 Ghana cedis worth of voucher and a bronze medal. Toga, who was participating in the Captain 1 competition for the first time, observed that the standard of play at the event was top-notch.
The group pairing was good because you play with amateurs who want to learn from you, who want to give. They want to take something from you, and you're also giving them something by talking to them, letting them know that the game is different. This is how they have to play it next time. So it's like your whole community game we are playing. So I think the organization was good and the tournament was great. President of Captain 1 Golf Society, Pius Ayapia, was excited about the standard of the tournament.
The standard has been raised to a different level. As you saw, we couldn't establish a clear winner until they had a number of holes to play off. And so it tells you that every year that we have organized this competition, we have actually exhibited some level of professionalism and improvement in the game. Next year, we're looking to bring on board more professionals and increase the number of amateurs who have already expressed interest.
There would be a first major junior championship in August, with children from 5 Captain 1 adopted orphanages competing for glory.
And then start planning in earnest for our August junior tournament. We have my young son here who wanted to play desperately. Unfortunately couldn't, even though the youngest player today was 13. We're looking forward to our August championship for the youth. And as you know, our mantra is for golf for all. So that's what we're working on, and we're looking forward to seeing a big swashbuckle event.
Head of operations at the Royal Golf Club, Professor Bernard Baden, is positive such tournaments are good for the growth of the golf game.
We are currently talking to the executives of Captain 1 to make sure, at least for next year, we want them to come back here. And it's something we are proud to be associated with. So in the long term, yes, we want to see ourselves as a major partner with Captain 1.
Awards were also presented to monthly medal winners, with Prince Aduakwa emerging the overall winner, while James Akwabwa and George Osei came second and third in that order.
Well, before we wrap up, a quick birthday wish to Ibrahim Mahama, who turns 50 today, and he is the CEO of Engineers and Planners from the AM Sports and of course the whole AM show. Do wish you a happy birthday, Mr. Ibrahim Mahama. But that's how we'll be wrapping up the show here. You can get more sports stories at Joy Sports GH. Follow the handle on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And we'll be back to bring you more sports action throughout the day. My name is Oreko Ampofo.
Well, thank you very much for staying with us. And as you can see in the background, it's all about the election petition. The Supreme Court dismissed Mahama's application for review concerning those 12 interrogatories. I guess now at this point in time, we all have been checking out what interrogatories are. We're joined now by Dr. Poku Edusei, lawyer and member of the NPP communications team. He'll be joining us as we discourse on this all-important subject. The election petition update is brought to you in association with Petrosol. Clean fuel in full quantities, always a delightful experience. Also by DBS Roofing, we truly are your roofing experts. And Core Mixture, the immune booster for your general well-being, especially important in these times when we need to keep our immune systems, sharp to avert contracting COVID-19. Thank you very much for joining us. Let me just say a very good morning to Dr. Poku Edusei. Doc, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
And it's a pleasure to interact with you this morning. Now, I'm hiding behind the mask and you may not realize it, but I've actually passed through your hands. And so I'll not mention where, but if you look carefully, I'm sure you'll remember. So this is a lecturer-student situation.
Hopefully, because when the students over time train themselves and learn, they tend to be more perfect than the master.
Well, it's been a while, and it's good to discourse with you this morning. Now, let's just do this with your permission. We're going to take a brief recap of recent events from December the 30th, when that petition was filed, up to this point, when indeed we've got to the point where the pre-trial is over. So we're going to take a quick recap of what happened in court yesterday. When we come back, then we'll commence the discourse.
Hearing commenced on Thursday with the panel informing the lawyers in the case that some of the applications that had been made were moot. The first had to do with a request that the court stays its proceedings. That particular application should have been heard on Tuesday, and because it was staying proceedings pending the court dealing with the review on Thursday, the court did indicate that it was moot, and so Mr. Chikata, who had filed a particular application, proceeded to withdraw it, and the court struck it out as withdrawn. The second one related to a request for abridgment of time. It was a request that the Electoral Commission had made, asking that the court hears the review on Tuesday instead of Thursday. And because it was Thursday again, the court did note that it was also moot, and lawyers for the Electoral Commission proceeded to withdraw that particular application as well. With that out of the way, the court went on a brief recess where two justices of the Supreme Court, Justices Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu, as well as Justice Amadou Tanko, joined the 7-member panel to now make a 9-member panel, at which stage the legal arguments were listened to from Mr. Chikata, Justin Amenuvo for the Electoral Commission, and Akoto Ampao for the President Akufo-Addo's legal team.
It's my submission that the arguments we have heard today by the applicant is just an emotional reaction to an unfavorable judgment quoting Adade, and therefore this application should be dismissed. That's my submission.
The applicant has a burden of demonstrating to the court how the refusal in this particular case was wrong. And furthermore, he has an obligation to demonstrate, one, that the error was a fundamental error, two, that fundamental error occasioned them a gross miscarriage of justice. And it's our submission that the applicant has failed to demonstrate these very basic conditions to grant a review. In the circumstances, my lords, we pray that the application be dismissed as completely unmeritorious.
We thought it important to have those questions dealt with in interrogatories so that we would not be burdened to have to ask them subsequently in cross-examination. In any case, your ladyship, if the questions are not relevant, how can they be allowed in cross-examination, if that is the position? If the questions are not relevant, if that is the position that's been taken, then they cannot be asked in cross-examination either.
Are you attempting to cross a bridge you have not reached?
Well, I believe you put that bridge there. No, with respect, this very simple way of trying to interpret Rule 69C4 would lead to gross absurdity.
The court in a unanimous decision dismissed first the request that was asking that it allows some additional documents to be filed to bolster the review arguments of Mr. Mohammed's team, and also dismissed the review itself, saying that it has not met the threshold required for such a review to be granted. Proceedings have been adjourned to Friday for the trial proper to commence, and the various legal teams have been reacting to the directives from the courts.
The refusal of applications are not fair to the petitioner in the light of the past and in the light of what is happening now. So we disagree with the rulings of the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, that's their decision. There's not much we can do. We'll be in court tomorrow.
The law is not about what you want. It is about what you will get. And this business of they're talking about fair hearing and all that. In one of the authorities that their lead counsel, Mr. Tajikaka, quoted, it was stated quite clearly there that speedy hearing is synonymous to fair hearing. So I don't know what this fetish it is about expedition being sacrificed for justice. In the case that he himself, Chachukata, quoted, it was speedy hearing is fair hearing.
Well, so there you have it, a recap of events yesterday and the barbs being thrown left, right and center. Interesting ones from Marietta Buopong and, of course, Chachuchi Kata himself, lead counsel for the Mahama legal team. We still have Dr. Poku Eduse joining us via Zoom, I should be saying. Now, Doc, I just want to find out from you, in the course of these last few weeks, as we have, seen the petitioner, the respondents, and all the legal arguments that have been made, and culminating in what we saw yesterday, what would be your overview, your take on recent happenings as we gear up for the trial proper to commence?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to our listeners and viewers. To start with, I think it's been a month since the petition was filed, and we would have expected that the main trial would have started by now, but it's starting hopefully today. Since it was filed and then the pleadings were exchanged, all that have gone on thus far, I would say, are procedural in terms of trying to get evidence extracted from the other side, in terms of getting applications heard and all those. They are procedural. So it is today that the substantive aspect of the case will be gone into, and that is what Ghanaians are expecting, because what we were served with sometime 4 years ago, 2013 thereabout, wasn't what Ghanaians expected. We didn't want a situation whereby after elections, our development would then be more or less halted for us to listen to legal stories glued to our television sets. It's for that reason that under the old CI that election adjudication was done. We were minded to change that regime in 2016. And interestingly, it was introduced by the then outgoing government in 2016, led by President Mahama. And of course, he worked through the Attorney General's office and Parliament and got CI 99 passed as the new regime for dealing with election petitions. So because of our experience, what the then powers that be decided was that we didn't want an 8-month long haul kind of trial. So let's put in place mechanisms for a speedy trial to be put in place. That was introduced by CI 99. And that is what we expect, that this trial should be made to follow, so that at the end of the day, Ghanaians will know their left from their right, and then the governance issues can go on so that development is not stratified.
Now, just because you make mention of this, the timelines again, I mean, December the 30th, the filing of that petition by the NDC. Looking at the dating, how are the days counted, so to speak, when it comes to the petition? How much more time is left? Because I've heard people talking about whether the courts can actually satisfy what ought to be done speedily enough to give a ruling, deliver a ruling on this matter.
Well, we have in the schedule of the CI an indication of January to March. That is the extent of the framework period that the court is supposed to work with. But we have been in court for a long time, and we know that even in the High Court, where we operate under CI 47, it's possible that the dates are varied by the courts. So it's not compulsory, I would say mandatory, that all should be done within this period. But in the CI, it says that the case should be adjudicated upon and be completed within 42 days. Some are interpreting it in different ways, but actually in the body of the CI is 42 days. And if you are minded to look at how this regime is operating, even on weekends, processes can be filed. On holidays, processes can be filed. It tells you that we have moved away from the past, in which in 2013, when the then Chief Justice wanted cases heard on holidays, Bernard Mona went to the Supreme Court and challenged it, that it violates the Public Holiday Act, because there had not been any instrument from the executive declaring those days as holidays, as working days. And also in the Public Holiday Act, there's also no indication that holidays you can work. And it was upheld by the Supreme Court. So when we had a new opportunity, they decided to change it and allow for sometimes Saturday workings and even holiday workings as well of the court, so that election petitions are dispatched with properly. And that is the regime we have. So that's what I expect that we go with, and reduce the extent of, I would say, the antics and flowery kinds of dragons in the system. We want to hear the real story of what happened on December 7th, 2020.
Now, as someone who has the law in your bosom, someone who is pretty close to the court, you followed the 2012-2013 election petition, and now we have another one on our hands. Yesterday, listening to proceedings in court, you would hear copious references being made to that petition in 2012-2013 by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, seeking some redress in court with regard to the election then. What are the lines you can draw between that petition then and this one now? I pose the question because, especially on the stance of the interrogatories, a lot has come to bear about the refusal of the bench, the panel, to actually grant what the NDC has been asking. What are the substantial links or differences or points of convergence when it comes to these two petitions?
There are a number of them. First, if you recall, the parties themselves in 2013 were a lot. The petitioners were three: President Akufo-Addo, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, and then the late Jake Obi-Chevilamte were the petitioners. The respondents were then President Mahama, the Electoral Commission, and then even the NDC was permitted to join when they filed for joinder. Now we realize that that extent of having so many parties to an election petition, which basically is based on numbers and just hardcore proof that someone thinks that figures have been padded or not. So we decided to break away from the past. So that is one difference. That in this case, the petitioner should just be the one who lost or claims that he was the first runner-up, and that person is also petitioner allowed. Otherwise, the NDC would have been forcing themselves to join this suit because they would say that they put up the candidate for the elections and they should be made to join. So it was taken out, that opportunity was taken out completely by express legislation that the NDC facilitated when they were in government. So that settles it. And then the parties should, the respondents should then be the Electoral Commission, and then the one who has been declared as president-elect and has been sworn in now. So it makes the parties maximum 3. It used to be 5, it could be 6, thereabout. And now we have only 3 persons involved here. The other breakaway from the past also is that we operated under CI 74 in 2013 for the elections petition. We decided that CI 74 didn't serve the interests of Ghanaians because it didn't have strictures in place to handle flowery antics here and there. So we decided that let's enact a new constitutional instrument. And you know how constitutional instruments are made? They are generated from the executive arm of government, in that case, led by the Attorney General, then Marietta, and then taken to Parliament. When it goes there, they sit on it, and it's actually 21 sitting days, not just any 21 days, 21 sitting days. That's why they should understand the meaning of 42 days. Because if Parliament wanted it to be 41 sitting days, they would 42 sitting days, they would have expressly stated it. So for CI to mature, 21 sitting days before it matures. Then Parliament can either decide to reject it or and then pass it. So in this case, they passed it into law that we want 42 days trial for election petitions. And the breakaway is that anytime you are resorting to precedents of 2013 in the Akufo-Addo and Electoral Commission case, you must be careful, because we decided that some of the rulings or holdings in the case is not in the interest of Ghana. And for that reason, let's pass a new law and change it. So anytime a decision of a court is given and realize that it is not in the interest of the country, Parliament can intervene and change course. So the trajectory of our constitutional jurisprudence is said that when Riakoto decision was given in the 1960s, making Kwame Nkrumah someone you cannot challenge, realize that 1969 Constitution decided to change course. 79 Constitution decided to change course. The 1992 Constitution has changed course. That we don't want a situation whereby the executive president cannot be questioned, can just detain people under preventive detention laws, and then will not be permitted to be questioned. So we have decided to change course. So anytime someone is arrested today, and then you are arguing the case, as let's say Attorney General, you are now arguing for the Republic, and you go inside the case of Rui Akoto, it means that you don't understand our constitutional history very well, because we have decided to jettison Rui Akoto case and start a new course by ensuring that fundamental human rights are well respected and protected by the courts. That's why we have the 48-hour rule, rule that you can't detain someone for more than 2 days upon arrest. When you arrest somebody, give the reason why you are arresting the person. All these are strictures we have introduced because our history told us that that history was abominable. It wasn't in our interest. So the same way they should understand 2013 development, that we decided to break away from some of the happenings of 2013 election petition and adopted a new course in 2021 for our adjudication purposes.
Now, the term interrogatories has become one that now every Mansa Kofi Ablan would have researched, would have wanted to find out what they are about. Looking at the NDC's continuous call for review, which culminated yesterday in that 9-0 ruling by the court, what would you say again? I'm trying to draw a bit of a nexus here because Chachuchi Kata did make mention of the fact that in the 2012-2013 petition, there was room made for interrogatories. What are the links and differences? And again, how does this hamper the NDC's petition moving forward? Because they have also categorically stated that not being allowed to make these interrogatories in court is going to impact their case. What is your take?
Well, I believe that that cannot be the case, that when you are not permitted to ask questions under oath, so that you then elicit information to support the cause you are fighting in court through interrogatory administration, it means that you have come to the end of your matter. Not at all. Even Rule Order 22, based on which they were actually supporting their case to administer those interrogatories, there's a provision in there that says that the non-admissibility of interrogatories is no bar to the party's ability, or the plaintiff, in this case the petitioner's ability, to ask similar questions or the same questions under cross-examination. So they can ask their questions going forward under cross-examination. Because for lawyers, we believe that cross-examination is at large. And today, that's what we'll be experiencing. It is not only going to be limited to the few depositions of Mr. Sudin Katia when he mounts the witness box. They will tender his testimony, which is what the witness statement through, and means that that's the end of this statement in chief, right? Evidence in chief. So after that, then he will be handed over to the lawyers for the first respondent, which is the Electoral Commission, to start asking questions. And then, secondly, when the Electoral Commission closes its cross-examination, then Mr. handed over to Mr. Kutuampao to start cross-examining him. And we have a rule that cross-examination is at large. it tells you that you can ask so many questions. So if you're able to dig to know the history of even Mr. Sodinkesia, it can be brought in that on these days you said this. Did you believe in what you said? And if it's actually different from the reality, it means that they will then be confronting you with your past pronouncements, and that can then cast a slur on your credibility.
I'll be coming back to you later, Doc, to talk about this petition moving forward, now that we're moving from the pre-trial stage to the trial stage proper. But also let me welcome aboard Kojoga Adawudu, lawyer and member of the John Mahama legal team. Mr. Adawudu, a very good morning to you, sir. Is Kojoga Adawudu on, via Zoom connecting with us? Well, it appears we cannot hear from him. Mr. Adawudu, if you can hear me, and maybe if you've not unmuted, please unmute so we can hear you and see you.
Yes, it's unmuted.
Right. Thank you very much for that, and thank you for joining the conversation. So let's start from here. It's been a series of events, push, and pull back and forth. And yesterday, double blows served to your team. Mr. Adawudu, if you could just stabilize, I don't know whether you're using your phone or some other gadget, but if you could just stabilize it and maybe give us, is it landscape, so we can see you in full picture, that would be great.
Is it okay?
Well, I guess we can make do, but if it's your phone, you could just tilt it to the other side so we have a better view of you and it's less shaky. Good, good. Thank you very much, Mr. Adawudu. So, right, technology, it has its own, it has its own ways. Thank you very much, Mr. Adawudu. Now, yesterday you were dealt a double blow in court. You had wanted to file additional documentation. That was not allowed. It was poo-pooed. There was also the bit about the interrogatories. That was also thrown out by 9-0. What is the NDC's reaction to this? We've heard from Marietta Bruopong. We've heard from, some of your other lawyers in the team. But how do you feel about that?
Before I come to that question, to answer that question, let me just put the whole petition in court into a brief perspective so that our viewers can follow us. Now, let me break it into 3 stages. The petition you file, what we file, we exchange documents, the answer, the stage 1. Let me explain stage 1. We have the answer documents, we go for pre-trial, we put all the documents together with any outstanding matters, with all the documents, and we end up with the pre-trial. So around that time, any issue you have, you can raise it. That's why the interrogatories were raised, admit facts were raised, issues were raised. So that brings end to the stage 1, the first stage. The second stage is that the trial, where the witnesses mount the box, they are cross-examined. Whilst they are cross-examined, and the end of the cross-examination for all the parties they have testified, that is the end of stage 2. Then they will ask, the court will ask, instead of coming to court to address them, they will ask you to file your case or a submission that you have made, reduce it and put it on paper. And you bring it. When you finish with that, now the court comes and gives a judgment. So you realize that at stage 1, we were looking at the rules, asking for interrogatories, asking for facts to be admitted. And at the end of the day, what ends it with the pre-trial is that what you are going to say in the box, reduce it with all your documents to substantiate, reduce it on paper, and in our parlance, we say witness statement. So that has been done. Now, what happened yesterday was that we have asked, served interrogatories. Interrogatory simply means that we want information more information or details or further and better particulars as to a fact that has been made. Now, the court says that no, it will not agree because it is not relevant. 2, one of the rules, that is Order 22, will not be applicable in this matter because they have been given timelines. And when there is timeline, they would dispense with that rule, which we said that that's why we have gone on review. And we said that, one, fundamentally, you cannot say you will not apply that law because it forms part of our law. 2, if you are saying it's not relevant, that we can ask those questions, how can we now say that it will be relevant when we ask in examination? That's a thing that if it is fundamental that you exercise discretion. When you have been given the power to exercise discretion in everything, you are guided by Article 296. So that's why we went on the review. And the review, you saw the exposition of the law, whether right or wrong. We have made that exposition to the court as to what the rules and the law says. But unfortunately, the court disagrees with us, our position. And the court has spoken. Now, as lawyers, we have been trained. It doesn't move us. We are not perturbed. It doesn't have much effect on the substantive case. That these are the things we are asking. So we will now employ this, as it has been done already in the witness statement. Some parts of the questions and other has been factored into it. And in cross-examination, we will also find a strategy by which we will go. So if you go to court and the court disagree with you, it is on the lighter note to say it was more like a comic relief to say it is 9-0.
Okay, Mr. Adawudu, I just want to pose this question, interject briefly. Are you suggesting then that you're going to find ways of circumventing what the court has done? Because it has stated its reasons, even drawing, a nexus, if you like, between what it did in 2013 and what it's doing now, and why what happened in 2013 may not necessarily reflect what position the court will take when it comes to interrogatories. So are you suggesting that when the trial proper starts, your team is going to find ways of circumventing this review that was thrown out by the court so that you still have your way? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think the court even made that indication clearly, that the fact that interrogatories is not been accepted, it's been dismissed, doesn't mean that in cross-examination you cannot ask those questions. Exactly. And my learned friend, Mr. Dr. Edu Sepoku, has even said that law has even said that it will not be a bar if the court dispense with the interrogation, the information you want, you can still ask in cross-examination. It is for the court or the opponent to say this question is not relevant or not, take an objection. So it gives an indication that some of the questions that we may be asking, there may be objections which have to be ruled, which have to be sustained. That is what we anticipate. So cross-examination is to test your credibility, is to get the facts, and you turn the facts around, whether the person is lying on oath or not. That's the purpose of cross-examination, to bring out the facts and bring out the truth. So you are assisting the court. So the questions that we have at cross-examination, we cannot be limited. And we cannot be limited and say this question you cannot ask. The only thing maybe they can say is that the question will not be relevant, or the question is unfair to the witness, or the question is a legal question that the witness is being asked. So if you have any question, it's wide. You are testing the person's competence, you are testing the person's training, you are testing the person's personal knowledge of the matters, of what he has seen, what had happened. It is not what you heard. It is what you have seen, what happened, that is going to be tested on. So cross-examination gives you a wide latitude by which you can ask questions. The only thing is that you don't ask questions that would be unfair, questions that would be like you're harassing the person, the question that will be a legal question, that the person is not a lawyer and the person cannot answer that question properly.
Okay. Before I cross over back to Dr. Poku Edusei, very briefly. Now, these interrogatories, I put the question to Dr. Edusei earlier, and he shared his thoughts on them. Now that this opportunity to pose those 12 interrogatories has been denied, does that affect your position in any way? Because you had been pushing for this, you had gone for the review and all of that. Does it affect your position?
No, not at all. Interrogatories, let me put it in and just give you a classical example so that we see if we can put it in perspective. I have a contract with you. The contract is worth 200 cedis. You agree that we have a contract. Now pay me. You said you will not pay, so I have taken you to court. Now the contract we are saying is 200. In your answer or defense, you say that yes, we have a contract, but I don't owe you 200 cedis. So you owe me. Then I now come with interrogatories and I ask question. How much was the total sum of the contract? You will answer 200 cedis. How much did you pay out of this? You say I paid 100 cedis. How much is outstanding? You say it's 100 cedis. What is the mode that you paid, cash or check? You said I paid through check. Which bank? This. Now, we have narrowed down the issue to only 100 cedis, which is outstanding, right? That's the purpose of interrogatory. So you narrow it down. You say you paid 100 cedis already. If it is true, that means that we are not even going to talk about 200 cedis now. It will be only 100 cedis, which is outstanding, that we would come and say, yes, the issue has been narrowed down to 100 cedis. So it has been narrowed down and we won't waste time going into 200 cedis. So the purpose that we were doing was to narrow down some of the facts, narrow down the issues. But if the court disagrees with us on that, it tells you that now we need to go into the matter to the extent that we have to prove that the contract sum was 200 and you haven't paid anything. So that was the purpose. So the fact that the interrogatories has not been admitted or allowed, granted, it does not affect our case in any way. Right. Already, we have also put up that some facts that they should admit.
Right.
Now, if you admit those facts, it will be used as part of the process in cross-examination. If you don't admit those facts or you do not answer the facts, it will also be, the court will be reminded that facts, we ask that you should admit some facts and you did not do it. And since you did not do it, these are the consequences. So we were all, in all this, the interrogatories and the rest was to narrow down the issues, and we zero in into two major things. How did you go by compiling the results where you had mathematical error, which they had admitted already, and how your activity in declaration violated or was an infraction on Article 63 or 64, right? The 63, 64, we are talking about that. So these are all that we were aiming at. And I think by and large, the court also said, so in our cross-examination, I'm sure we will have our strategy to be able to achieve the purpose why we are in court.
Thank you for making that clear. Now, Dr. Poku Edusei, there's also been that case of, filing supplementary, statements of case. And of course, the NDC was dealt another blow in that respect, regardless of, citing the precedents of the courts, that same court in the past. What is your understanding of the decision of the court when it comes to disallowing the NDC to proceed with its additional statements of case?
Right, thank you. And I want to say good morning to my colleague Adauda. He has been erudite in giving information about what interrogatories are supposed to do. So before I go to your question, let me also make it clear that the idealism of interrogatories in trying to make sure that issues are brought within their right perspective and trial is facilitated is sometimes not what lawyers administer it to do. So the construction of the mind cannot be seen in the face. sometimes when lawyers are going to court, it may be that they are even handicapped in terms of information that they have. They don't have any evidence. So they then embark on what you call a fishing expedition. So it's that fine line of fishing and interrogatories. That's why the court is supposed to see through and see whether you came prepared with evidence before coming to court or you were just coming to fish. And fishing is actually frowned upon by the court.
Well, those are some very interesting comments you make. A fishing expedition, I mean, it would basically suggest that the NDC's legal team is going out on a limb, that they really don't have certain bases upon which they can write on this case. For which reason they were relying on these interrogatories? Is that your thinking?
That is actually the case. They wanted to fish.
No.
Then they
don't understand our strategy.
You know, it's in their head. It's like the mind construction cannot be seen in the face. When they are coming in that kind of way, that's why they, after losing, decided that no, it wasn't enough. Let's go for review. And in the review, we're now transitioning to the question you asked. How come in the past supplementary statement of case or supplementary additional grounds are permitted to be filed? And in this case, they were not successful. They were not successful for simple reason. You know, there is, among the jurisdictions of the Supreme Court, it's what we call the review jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. It's a very special jurisdiction, and it is only the Supreme Court of Ghana that has that power. No court whatsoever has gotten review jurisdiction powers. The High Court in Order 42, they have something called review, but that has even been ruled on. It's actually supposed to be used to correct minor errors in judgment. But typical special review jurisdiction is only vested in the Supreme Court. And it is exercised on very rare basis. And that's why Rule 54 of the Supreme Court rules tell us that there should be two conditions. You must meet at least one of them. There should be exceptional circumstances that will result in miscarriage of justice before your review application can be made to stand. And one of such is that maybe there's a law that the court didn't even know, or that kind of exceptional circumstance must be there. The second one is that there should be evidence or material information that was not available by your reasonable exercise of diligence at the time the decision was given. So you have now gotten the information. So new material facts that you couldn't have known. But even those material facts, if you could have known and you were derelict in the discharge of your duty, you cannot meet the test of Rule 54 of the Supreme Court rules. So when they filed for review, they then applied to add onto the grounds of the review. That's number one. And then also when the grounds is added, a new ground, I don't know which ground it was, then they were going to file supplementary, that's a legal argument, that's what we call statement of case in the Supreme Court. So they were going to file supplementary statement of case to buttress the review. When they went, the court first checked from them under which rule they were coming with that kind of application. And they said that they were moving on the basis of the inherent jurisdiction of the court. It means that expressly there's no provision that allows for you to file additional ground for review when you have already filed your statement of case and then the review application has been filed. So they were then citing authorities to support that, oh, in this case, in this case, supplementary were permitted for additional ground to be filed, additional statement of case were also filed. But the court was also very smart. They actually saw the authorities, because they have delivered these judgments, they have read wide, and when the authorities came, they knew that the authorities that were being cited all along by the lead counsel for the petitioners, were authorities in respect of appeals to the Supreme Court. And then the court said, okay, let's look at appeal rules. When you look at the rules on appeal, there's a whole section dealing with appeal from Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. There are provisions that permit you to file additional ground of appeal. But if you look at review section, there's nothing like that there. So the court said, all these authorities that we have permitted others to file additional ground were in respect of appeals. And the powers of the Supreme Court, we are talking of review powers, appellate powers, original jurisdiction, and I think there are a few of them, and what you call judicial review powers as well. So if you can get additional grounds filed anytime you are appealing against a decision of the High Court, it doesn't mean that you can get additional ground filed anytime you are appealing, you are applying for review of our decision. Okay, and that's where the difference is.
Dr.
The reason that we lost.
So in a nutshell, you are in complete agreement with the ruling of the Supreme Court on this matter. You feel the entire basis for a review and subsequent, petitions basically did not hold any water. So you are in agreement when it comes to this bit.
I agree with them.
Okay.
That there were no material fact that they had. Also, there were no exceptional circumstances that occasioned a miscarriage of justice.
All right.
Because here is the case that the 12 questions you are talking about, you could ask them in cross-examination, so what have you been denied? Nothing. So there's no miscarriage of justice.
All right.
You were right.
You
can just put your case across without the review jurisdiction being met. And they couldn't meet it. And it's a very high threshold because judges are not flip-flops, right? You don't expect them to rule today, 7 of them, and then all the 7 are sitting. 2 are added. In the case of Professor Mensah Bosu and then Justice Tanko, they are not flip-flops. That they went and slept, and then the next day, okay, it means that all of us, or at least 4 out of the 7, must come and join the new number, or 3 join the new number before you can get 5-4. It doesn't work that way. Judges are not flip-flops.
Mr. Dawudu, I can see from your...
you cannot succeed on review.
Mr. Dawudu, I can see from the expression on your face that you would like to quickly, react to this. And I'd like to find out from you as well. Now, I listened to Frank Davies yesterday, and he made mention of the fact that it appears your team is not ready. I mean, from this push when it comes to the interrogatories, he's been asking himself whether, your star team, so to speak, is actually ready to deal with the facts, and that you are using the law. It's not a matter of, so to speak, running your mouth, quoting, citing case upon case. Is your team ready as we commence with the trial proper today? Is your team ready?
Let me say in very affirmative and very positive manner that our team has been ready from day one. Our team, you see, the only problem they are having with us is that they don't understand our strategy. It's the same.
What is your strategy? Do share with us. Hello? What is this strategy?
No, I can share our strategy with you on air. But listen, you see, we use the rules. We use the rules to apply to the court. There have never been on any occasion where the court said that what we have filed or the way we approach the court, it is not supported by any rule. Every rule that we use, we go to court, it tells you that we sit, we research, we see the rules. I've always been saying that if you have been given a right to exercise and you decide not to exercise it and somebody is exercising those rights by using the rules, you don't come and say that they are not ready. It is because you don't understand the way we are coming.
Well, maybe you would have to help us understand, because if we are taking what happened yesterday, for example, into context, and you're losing by 9 against and none for the petition for review that you put forward, yes, you may be applying the law, but how potent is what you are putting forward? That's the question, isn't it?
Listen, you see, you are trained as a lawyer. You come, the judges disagree with you on your exposition of the law. Your understanding of the law. And we have espoused a position. And they are saying that simply they said that what we are saying for the review. Let me just explain the reason for the benefit of our listeners.
It has to be a bit brief, but please go ahead.
It's brief. It's just brief. It's just like you go to the chief palace. Maybe the paramount chief, or let me say the Omanhene has decided the matter, or vice versa, the paramount chief has decided the matter, and you are saying that I think that the decision you have made, it is not right. So take a second look at it. So now the paramount chief will invite other chiefs, his divisional chiefs or others, in addition to sit. That's why we saw it was 7, is moved to 9. So that you look at your own decision and say that, yes, if I look at it, this law, inadvertently, I did not look at it. Yes, when we're exercising our discretionary power, as the court said that interrogatories is discretionary power, maybe I did not exercise it well in accordance with this. So those are the things that we did, that we have asked for. Now, to go back to the issue of whether we were prepared or not, you know, we have been preparing every day. Those interrogatories that are said, yes, although may have been factored into the substantive case, there's another way that has been suggested to us even by the court, that cross-examination. We have been ready from day one, and we are going to use the law. We've been trained as lawyers that even when you espouse your position, the position of the law, and the judge disagree with you, that's why we have the appellate system that you go to 3 judges after High Court. From there, you go to fight in the Supreme Court. Now, it is only in Supreme Court that is the finality of it. When they speak with the review jurisdiction, there is a public policy under it that says that litigation at the point must stop. So when they speak, that is, they bring finality to that issue. And as we've seen, they brought finality to the issue of interrogatories. Okay. So we have filed requests to admit, and that will form part of our substantive case. And let me assure everybody that if we knew we did not have a case, we wouldn't have even gone to court. And there are 2 things that our petition, the case says that you have violated the Constitution, and by declaring that the way you went about it, by the mathematical errors, if you put all the presidential candidates, their figures together, you will not get, none of the candidates who have gotten 50 plus 1 or 50 and above of the vote. That is our case we put there.
Point well made. Now, we'll be wrapping up on what the expectations are, especially as today, normally there wouldn't have been a sitting, but Friday we're going to have a sitting as we sort of fast track this matter, so to speak, so we can meet the deadlines. We'll be getting into that. But Mr. Adawudu, my final bit before we get into that, and after that I'll cross over to Dr. Poku Edusei. Looking at how, you know, the sort of trade of comments and all of that between your end, your legal team, and the bench. I mean, yesterday, for example, Marietta Brew, upon some of the comments that were made, Chachu in court talking about the bridges that are being, you know, placed in the way of progressing with this court petition. And it may be even casting my mind back a bit about this, the rebuke, so to speak, that Dr. Ayine got. Don't you feel your end is antagonizing the bench, the justices of the court, and that while they are supposed to be neutral, you could be setting, you know, laying the ground for a negative outcome? Don't you feel that?
No. I'll take it in 2 perspectives, 2 contexts.
Those 2 have to be brief.
There is one communication that is... There's one communication is when court and the judges there, they know. Let me tell you, when you go, they want to test to see whether what you are espousing, you know the law or you don't know. You see, when you explain to a point, when one of the justices asks about, don't mention the name of the electoral commissioner, the chairperson, and you see, we went on and said, the law says you are the returning officer. There can only be one returning officer. So the fact that you are being heckled does not mean that you cannot espouse the law in court. We are trained that even in a hostile environment, you make your case and put your law before. 2, when it comes to communication out of court, which I think that our opponents, you have said, yes, there have been negatives as to what we communicate, because the public also learns from what we say and the communication. But where we have seen also that there is an agenda to tear down the image or bring down the image of people or attack people's personality by the other side, where you see every day they refer to the lead counsel. It's not about literature, it's not about prose, it's not about poetry, it's not English, and personalities are mentioned. It is the petitioner who has brought this case. That you see that it is a deliberate agenda just to bring his image down or discredit him and say that he doesn't know his law, he's been overhyped, and cascade down to members of the legal team. That is why when it happens like that, we would also be forced to reply in equal measure. But I think at the point where we are as lawyers and officers of the court, we must be decorous. We must be civil in our communication, no matter how we have been provoked by the other side. So I think, yes, there have been some negatives in the communication after court, and I think that these are senior members of the bar, and we need to look at it again and make sure, yes, petition will come and pass. We are friends. We don't have to make comments that enjoy the feelings of each other.
I'll have us hold it there. I was talking about the bench as well and communications. But Dr. Pokuedu say, as we proceed with this matter, the trial commencing, what do you forecast? What do you foresee? All the facts that we've seen thus far, the reviews, the petitions, the statements of case, and now culminating in this. What are you looking forward to?
Well, for the second respondent, our main focus will be for the petitioner to establish with concrete evidence that both were padded, so they'll be queried on it, and if it was, where is it reflected on the pink sheet? No earlier when they were coming, they indicated that 32 polling stations they had issues with, and even that when you put the numbers together, they were about 6,000. We got their witness statement, and now the number has reduced from 32 to 26. So, in a sense, their complaint is about 4,000 4,000 and something numbers, votes, not even polling stations. So, 26 polling stations translating into 4,000 votes plus. You are talking of someone
I have seen some saying 6,000 plus votes, but you go ahead.
Plus votes. So, that 4,000 will not be able to even reduce the 500,000 plus, the plus on it, for it to be substantial. The essence of the court is that they are supposed to do substantial justice. So if there's a slip, and then it forms the basis of your entire action, 35 paragraphs of the entire deposition in the petition is about the slip on December 9th. So you then have to, we will be assessing whether that goes to the substance of the elections of 2020, December 7th. If it doesn't, it means that nothing was broken, and therefore we wouldn't need a fix.
Well, Mr. Dawodu, maybe your brief expectations. In some 30 seconds, 1 minute, what are your expectations moving forward from your team and, this strategy you've been speaking of?
Yeah, but I think that we have successfully put our petition there in the court. And Mr. Asiedun Ketia, the general in politics, the only general in politics in Ghana, will mount the box. And I know he has personal knowledge of the issues, the electoral matters, because he's been round, he's gone round, he's been at IPAC and what happens and what happened in this election.
He did same on the other side in 2013. You're bringing him back.
Exactly, because it will tell you that when somebody does something, he's promoted or you reinforce him, then you tell him that, yeah, he's done well. And I think everybody would say that, will agree with me that when he was in the box 2013, he espoused how the processes and everything is that good. So I think that I expect him to make a good delivery and will expatiate and explain our position with the petition and how things are done, the electoral law, what has to be done. And I think that we will have a very good day. And also to educate, whilst he says it will educate us in the electoral laws and the processes when it comes to election.
Give me a yes or no answer. This is the very final bit. Is the NDC winning this petition? Are you going to achieve the ends that you've put forward? Are you going to achieve those ends? Yes or no? Just give me a yes or no answer.
Yes. We will achieve our objectives.
Right. Well, thank you very much. Kojogo Adawudu is a lawyer, member of the legal team for John Dramani Mahama as they put forward this election 2020 petition. Of course, we also have the man I've made clearly known is a former lecturer of mine when it comes to law, Dr. Poku Eduse. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
After several years of intensive research, DBS Industries Limited brings you roofing sheets to help complete your dream house in style. Experience the amazing touch of ColorLink Plus roofing sheets in 26 years, which means ColorLink Plus roofing sheets always stays clean and beautiful for you. And there's more. We're giving you a whopping 20-year warranty against fading and peeling. Visit DBS Industries Limited in Accra on the Spintex Road in the DBS building near the Papaya restaurant. You want to call? Of course you should. Call them on 0240 844 444, 0240 844 444, or 0543 286 637, or visit any of their factories in Kumasi, Tamale, and Takrady. DBS Industries Limited, we truly are your roofing experts. Now, Petrosol, it's always there for you. Due to hard times, we've become value hunters. But are we hunting for value the right way? Remember, your engine is more valuable than just cheap fuel. Be smart. Hunt for holistic value. Holistic value is when you have quality fuel at the right quantity and at a fair price. That's fair, right? At Petrosol, we serve clean fuel in full quantities at a fair price, and that is holistic value. So come to us, Petrosol, clean fuel in full quantities. Well, time now for us to move on to our next segment, and when we return, Parliament has thrown out Mahama Ayariga's motion for government to absorb the fees of tertiary students. It went down to a vote. Now, what exactly does this mean? What are the details? All that when we return. Do stay.
Boko Central Member of Parliament Mahama Ayariga had wanted government to absorb fees for students in this academic year, but as you may have heard, yesterday that motion could not go through in Parliament. Well, is it such a big blow to students? Let's speak to Mr. Kofi Asari, his Executive Director, Africa Education Watch, on the back of this. A very good morning to you, sir, if you can hear me. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Hello, good morning, and good morning to your cherished audience.
Okay, great. Good to have you. I'm sure you were following keenly this motion that Mr. Mahama Ayariga had moved on the floor of Parliament. Yesterday, that debate ended and the decision was made. Fees will not be absorbed. Is that a disappointment to you?
I must admit that one would have wished that there was some consensus between both parties on the need to, provide some subsidy or remove this financial barrier to to re-enrollment or access for many economically vulnerable learners. Unfortunately, there were issues with the motion, as I mentioned earlier, and also politics took the better of the discussions yesterday. And so it's quite unfortunate that we allowed politics to drive this motion. But all in all, I think that probably we've learned our mistakes. Next time such a motion will probably have to come much earlier. And then also probably will have to package in a manner that makes it more succinct than it appeared to be at its conception stage.
Can you help us with, so first of all, I'm not clear. Do you think students need some kind of support?
Sure. Our preliminary information we have from the university suggests that less than 70% of those who have been given admissions have so far honored them for most of the universities. we, as an organization, there are over 40 needy students who are unable to go to university, whose requests are still sitting down looking for funding from us. And there are so many others, all over the place. The fact is that people need support to be able to honor admissions to university, even without COVID. So with COVID, this is more, pronounced. And that's why UNESCO recommended to nation states and member states that as much as possible, countries should try and remove financial access barriers to enrollment in school when schools reopen because of the harsh impact of COVID on household incomes. And so every policy aimed at reducing or removing fees in this COVID recovery year is consistent with international practice, insofar as the country can mobilize the resources. But that obviously will depend on how the proposal is packaged, how the policy is packaged, and whether the policy has political will or not. Unfortunately, in Ghana, the challenge we had was that the opposition party had the next manifesto a proposal to do just that, remove fees in this year because of COVID. But because the ruling government did not have that proposal in their manifesto, the suggestion is that the opposition party is trying to rule when the ruling government is actually at the helm. Because virtually people are saying that, what the politicians are saying is that, or what they are seeing is that the NDC is trying to implement its manifesto using parliament. And so that's why I said that politics took the better of our approach to and the conduct of the debate itself. Unfortunately, that is what happened.
Do you think this request can be presented in another form for it to have effect?
I think time is of essence in this discussion, in the sense that about 90% of tertiary institutions have already closed their admissions. And those who are giving the admission letters, obviously, you know that they are always provisional admission letters, increment on you satisfying the financial obligations within 2 weeks normally. So admission deadlines have elapsed for about 90% of the tertiary institutions. And so as we keep delaying, the essence of the motion, continues to erode. Unless, of course, if there's an agreement with the tertiary institutions, especially the public ones, to extend, the deadline for honorary admission, because for most of them, it has already elapsed. And we sympathize with students who genuinely need support, to be able to honor their. Yesterday, we received another application from the University of Education. People don't have 2,000 cedis to honor their admission, to honor their admission in these universities. Not to talk of the other tangential financial obligations like hostel and other things, but just the money to secure admission is still a problem for many Ghanaians. It's unfortunate though, but I think that as a matter of, I think Parliament should have done something for the students, because at the point you realize that have mobilized, they were in Parliament, they have united. We know how divided the student front is politically, but on this front, in the past week we saw a mobilized, a more harmonized, opinion, a more harmonized and mobilized NUCs and other student unions, pushing this common opinion, meeting the leadership of Parliament and being there to give support to the whole process. So one was expecting that if something could have been done for the needy students whom, as at this time, have not been able to honor their admissions. But unfortunately, a blanket dismissal, greeted the motion. Maybe what we can talk about is that moving forward, government can still consider mopping up the system. Let's look at the about 30% of students who have not been able to honor their admissions at University of Professional Studies. Is it the case that they have moved to UCC or Legon, or they are still there? We can do a mop-up and find out the students that, as at today, have not been able to honor their admissions. And we will be ready to send them out the list of students who are on our list. still have not been able, we've not been able to raise money for their scholarships. If that would be the case, then at least that would be the best thing we can do given the circumstances.
Okay. Well, I want us to move away from this issue just briefly because we've had conversations on the reopening of schools. There was a press briefing by the Director General of the Ghana Education Service yesterday. You had talked about how they had totally failed because a lot of the things they should have done weeks before the announcement of the reopening. Are you convinced now that we're on track, we're in a good place, but also considering the fact that in Kumasi alone, the Komfanoche Teaching Hospital is recording a surge in COVID in children, for instance, and that's very worrying to parents?
You see, when it comes to education, tracking education deliveries, it's not a matter of press conferences. Yesterday, our team were in many schools, even in Accra here. I even submitted this. Schools in Accra do not have the PPEs. So when pronouncements are made, in the media that we have supplied them, they are talking about maybe procurement. They are talking about procurement. Procurement of PPEs is different from the schools receiving them. So we are not satisfied about the comments that we have procured 8 million, 10 million PPEs. Procurement is different from actual receipts. PPEs have not reached many of the schools. That notwithstanding, for us, the key issue has not been PPEs because students are coming from home with their own nose masks anyway, and then the previous medical packets that were left from last year, some of them are still there. So schools are managing that. So that is not necessarily the key issue. The key issue has to do with the lack of disrespect for physical distancing regulations of the Ghana Health Service. And that is where the Director General failed to I didn't see any commentary on that because we are still running schools in 70s and 80s, and we are now beginning to witness that some schools are now starting the shift system. This should have been done 3 weeks ago. You don't endanger the lives of children for the first 2 weeks, and then towards the end of the second week, you say that, okay, we are now doing a shift, which should have been anticipated prior to the reopening. And so we still find it as a very, very, very poor lack of adequate planning and foresight by the Ghana Education Service to have reopened schools without doing the splitting of classes prior to that. It has put the life of children at risk, and it is worthy of note and emphasis that it shouldn't happen again, and people must be held responsible for this negligence.
Well, we have to leave it here. Thank you for your time, Executive Director, Africa Education Watch, Mr. Kofi Asare. I am most grateful.
Thank you.
And that's our conversation. Stay with us. You're still on the AM show. We'll bring you some show business news with Caddy. That's coming up next.